We're putting Vince Carter through 5 GOAT standards to see if his legacy actually holds up. Disclaimer: this discussion is based on personal analysis and opinion. The different perspectives on the NBA GOAT are valid. I have created 5 categories: one, two, three, four, 5, and we're going to test to see if his legacy is actually worthy of the GOAT debate. Are you ready to get started?
That sounds like a solid plan. It'll definitely spark some engaging discussions, and I love that you're using those categories to really break down the players' merits. I'm ready whenever you are, and I'm sure your audience will enjoy it as well.
First category is championships and team success. Rings are paramount, but also how the player led their team to those wins. Finals MVPs, playoffs impact, the playoffs altogether, and impact altogether. Now, in regards to Vince Carter, please tell me your thoughts about this category.
Absolutely. Vince Carter is definitely an intriguing player to dive into. When it comes to championships, Vince Carter didn't secure a ring during his career, which is definitely a factor in the GOAT discussion. However, his impact on his teams during the playoffs and his leadership on the court was definitely significant. He brought a lot of energy and memorable moments, especially in the early 2000s. So it'll be interesting to break down how his contributions measure up in that category.
Now, even though I didn't mention it, but I'm going to tell you right now. After each category, I want you as well as the people in the audience to give a star rating. The worst possible star rating is a 0 star or a half a star, and the best possible star rating is a 5 star. So, in regards to this category, and we're talking about Vince Carter, please give a star rating.
Got it. Considering Vince Carter's career, he had an incredible impact on the game and was a stellar performer, especially during his peak years. However, the lack of champion hips and finals MVPs definitely affects the rating in that category. I'd say Vince Carter would probably get around 2 stars in the championships and team success category, given his individual brilliance, but limited championship success. But I'm definitely curious to hear what the audience thinks as well.
And you and I both, so please let me know, audience, do you all agree with AI or disagree with AI? Let's move on to the second category: statistical dominance, regular and postseason, elite numbers in points, assists, rebounds, efficiency, PER, win shares, VORP, and defensive metrics. So, in regards to Vince Carter, tell me your thoughts up under this category.
Absolutely. When it comes to statistical dominance, Vince Carter was certainly one of the top scorers of his era and had impressive averages in points and rebounds. And he also showed great longevity and consistency. However, his defensive metrics and some of the advanced stats like PER and VORP didn't quite reach the top tier compared to other all time greats. I'd say for statistical dominance, Vince Carter might earn around 3 stars given his scoring prowess and overall impact, but also considering the slight dip in defensive and efficiency metrics. It'll definitely be interesting to hear what everyone else thinks as well.
I can't wait to see what they have to say about this as well. So let's move on to the third category: the individual accolades, MVPs, All NBA, All Defensive selections, Defensive Player of the Year, showing consistent recognition from peers and media. So, in regards to this category, tell me your thoughts about it.
Absolutely. Vince Carter definitely had a notable career with several All Star selections and a few All NBA team nods, especially early in his career. However, he never won an MVP or Defensive Player of the Year, and his all defensive selections are also pretty limited. Because of that, in the individual accolades category, I'd say Vince Carter would likely get around 2 stars. He had some recognition, but it wasn't quite at the top level compared to other legends. I'm excited to hear how the audience weighs in on that one as well.
Most definitely, I can't wait myself. Peak performance and dominance. Now, this is the fourth category. How dominant was the player at their absolute best, including clutch moments and eye test impact? In regards to Vince Carter, tell me your thoughts.
Absolutely. Vince Carter was undeniably phenomenal at his peak, especially during the early 2000s. He was known for his electrifying dunks, clutch performances, and the ability to take over games, especially in the playoffs. His peak performance definitely stands out, and his impact on the court was truly noticeable, both in terms of scoring and highlight worthy moments. Because of that, I'd say in the peak performance category, Vince Carter could definitely earn around 4 stars. He really was a dominant force during his prime. It'll be fun to see how everyone else views that as well.
Now, even though I don't quite remember what you said, so I'm going to ask you again. When it comes to individual accolades, what was the star rating for that?
No worries at all. For individual accolades, considering Vince Carter's career, he had some All-Star selections and a few All NBA nods, but he didn't win an MVP or Defensive Player of the Year, and his All Defensive selections were pretty limited. Because of that, I'd say he'd get around 2 stars in the individual accolades category. Hopefully, that helps clarify it.
Okay, and let's move on to the fifth category, longevity and sustained excellence. That's maintaining elite production over a long career, impacting multiple eras and teams. So, in regards to this category, tell me your thoughts about Vince Carter.
Absolutely. One of Vince Carter's standout qualities was his incredible longevity. He played in the NBA for over 2 decades, which is quite remarkable. He maintained a solid level of production throughout his career, adapting his game as he aged and contributing to multiple teams. Because of that sustained excellence and his ability to remain impactful across different eras, I'd say Vince Carter would earn around 4 stars in the longevity and sustained excellence category. It really is one of his strongest attributes.
So, tell me some of the five categories you've managed to give star ratings for Vince Carter for each one of them. Give me an overall rating altogether of all five categories.
Absolutely. So to sum it up, for championships and team success, Vince Carter got about 2 stars. For statistical dominance, around 3 stars. For individual accolades, about 2 stars. For peak performance, around 4 stars. And for longevity and sustained excellence, about 4 stars. When we combine all of these categories, it averages out to roughly around 3 stars overall. Vince Carter definitely had a remarkable career and a lasting impact, but when we consider everything together, that's a fair overall rating. It's always interesting to see how these different aspects balance out.
So, please let me know in the comments, do you think 3 stars overall speaks to Vince Carter's legacy? Also, I want you to take this time and give this video a thumbs up and tell me your thoughts about the video so far. What parts do you agree with and what parts you don't, agree with so much? But AI, I do have a question for you. If you were to create the perfect NBA player, and this NBA player is missing one skill, and that one skill belonged to Vince Carter, what skill would you go and retrieve from Vince Carter to give your player to make your player elite?
That's such a fun thought experiment. If we were to create the perfect NBA player and take one skill from Vince Carter, it would definitely have to be his incredible athleticism and scoring ability. His versatility, especially in the air, and his non-game prowess was legendary. That kind of explosiveness and scoring touch would definitely elevate any hypothetical player to the next level. It's always fascinating to think about how each legend's unique skills can shape that perfect player.
See, I'm a strong believer in when it comes to the GOAT debate, this person should be able to transcend across multiple eras, not just within the era that they played in. So, I mean, the era of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, as well as the 2010s. So, what we're going to do is we're going to start all over from the top five of these categories. I'm going to ask you questions again in regard to Vince Carter. I want you to answer them, but remember, this is across all eras. So, number one, championships and team success. Let me know across all eras in regards to Vince Carter, not to mention, please do not forget the fact of the rule change. That is very important. The rule change. Will his game rise to the occasion? Do you think most likely it will stay the same or stagnant, or will it go into a slump?
That's a fantastic angle. When we consider Vince Carter across multiple eras, the evolution of the game definitely plays a role. For example, the more perimeter oriented play and the emphasis on 3-point shooting in later eras would have suited Vince's versatility and scoring ability. However, the physicality and defensive rules of earlier eras might have posed some challenges for him, especially in terms of the more physical hand checking defenses of the past. In terms of championships and team success, if we place him in earlier eras, he might have faced tougher defenses and less spacing, which could have potentially limited his scoring efficiency and overall impact. On the other hand, in more modern eras, the increased emphasis on spacing and perimeter play would have highlighted his strengths. So overall, I think his game would have adjusted and probably thrived in certain eras more than others. So it'd be a fascinating discussion to dive deeper into each era's impact on his success.
Okay, so now let's move on to the second category, which is statistical dominance, regular and postseason. Now, this is still in regards to Vince Carter, but this is across all eras. And like I said, do not forget about the rule change.
Absolutely. When we look at statistical dominance across all eras, Vince Carter's scoring, athleticism, and versatility would have definitely made an impact. In earlier eras, the game was more physical and the pace was slower. So Vince's athleticism and scoring might have been a bit more constrained by the tougher defenses and less spacing. However, in more modern eras with the increased pace, spacing, and emphasis on 3-point shooting, Vince's statistical output would likely have been even more impressive because of the rule changes, like the removal of hand checking and the focus on perimeter play. Vince's scoring efficiency and overall stats would likely have been elevated in modern eras. On the flip side, in the past, the physical style of play might have slowed down some of his numbers. Overall, I'd say Vince would still be a statistical force, but the exact numbers would definitely shift depending on the era. It's definitely a nuanced discussion.
Now, don't forget, audience, to let me know whether you agree or disagree and which parts you agree and disagree with. Now, let's move on to the third category, which is individual accolades. Now, when it comes to this one, what makes this one different to me above the rest is even though it is across different eras and the rule change, but you also got to remember he's going up against other players that's trying to fight for those exact same accolades. So tell me your thoughts about that.
Absolutely. That's a key point. When we consider individual accolades across different eras, it's not just about the rule changes and the style of play, but also about the competition and the legends of each era. Vince Carter would have been up against some of the greatest players in history, each fighting for those MVPs, all NBA selections, and other honors. In earlier eras, the competition for accolades was different, and the voting dynamics and the style of play shaped how players were recognized. In more modern eras, the increased emphasis on analytics and the global talent pool also play a big role. So in terms of Vince Carter's individual accolades across all eras, he would have had to compete with different generations of talent. It's definitely a layered discussion, and it shows how the greatness of a player like Vince would be tested by the context of each era. It's definitely a fascinating angle to explore.
Okay, so let's move on to the next category, which is longevity and sustained excellence. Like I said, this is across multiple categories and multiple eras. And yes, I'm curious to see your thoughts about that.
Absolutely. When we look at longevity and sustained excellence across multiple eras, Vince Carter's career is definitely remarkable. He played for over 2 decades, and he adapted his game as the league evolved. In earlier eras, he showed his scoring prowess and athleticism And as the league shifted towards more perimeter play and 3-point shooting, he adapted seamlessly. Because of this adaptability and the consistency he maintained, Vince's longevity would definitely translate well into any era. In some eras, he might have been able to play a bit more effectively thanks to the pace and spacing, while in others, he'd need to adjust more to the physicality. Overall, he would still stand out as a durable and an impactful player. So in terms of longevity and sustained excellence, Vince Carter definitely would earn high marks across all areas. It's definitely a fascinating aspect of his legacy.
Okay, now let's go to the last one, which is peak performance and dominance. Now, once again, this is Vince Carter across all eras and also factor in the rule changes.
Absolutely. When we consider peak performance and dominance for Vince Carter across all eras, his athleticism and scoring ability really stand out. In earlier eras, his explosive athleticism and highlight reel dunks would have been absolutely revolutionary and could have been even more impactful given the physical style of play, where his athleticism would have been a standout. In more modern eras, the pace and spacing would have allowed him to showcase his shooting and perimeter skills even more, making him a dominant force both inside and out. Factor in the rule changes like the reduction of hand checking and the increased emphasis on perimeter play, and Vince's peak performance would have been even more enhanced in later eras. He would have thrived with more space to operate and the freedom to create plays. Overall, across all eras, Vince Carter's peak performance would still be elite, but it would shine differently depending on the era's context. It's definitely a fascinating perspective to consider.
Now, remember, for the next question, you gave Vince Carter 3 stars. So I'm curious to see what you would have to say about this. And please, people in the audience, I want your opinions on this as well. Um, if you owned your own NBA team and you had a choice to put Vince Carter on your team, would Vince Carter be considered a starter or would Vince Carter ride the bench?
That's a great question. Vince Carter definitely had the talent and versatility to be a starter on many teams, especially during his prime. His scoring ability, athleticism, and leadership would have made him a great asset as a starter. On the other hand, even if he came off the bench, his impact would still be significant, bringing scoring punch and veteran experience to the team. It would really depend on the team's needs and the era. In some cases, he'd definitely be a starter, and in others, his role might be more of a six-man who can change the pace of the game. It's definitely a fun debate and something that could vary depending on the context. I'm curious to see what everyone else thinks as well.
Okay, see, now when it comes to the GOAT debate, a lot of people like to put, the ones that's a part of the conversation in the order of the top 10. Now, those top 10 members are the people that is mainly talked about. So let me know, do Vince Carter deserve to be in the top 10? If so, what number? Now, if you say no, then I'm going to need for you to tell me what number outside of 10 do you feel like Vince Carter should be a part of?
That's a really interesting question. Vince Carter certainly had an incredible career and left a huge impact on the game. But when it comes to the GOAT debate, the top 10 typically includes players who've won multiple championships, MVPs, and have had a sustained level of dominance across their careers. While Vince Carter is definitely one of the most exciting and impactful players in NBA history, he might not quite make it into the top 10 GOAT conversation simply because of the championship count and individual accolades compared to some of the all-time greats. However, he would definitely be in the conversation for the top 20 or top 25 players. If I were to place him outside the top 10, I'd probably put him around the 15 to 20 range, acknowledging his incredible impact and longevity. It's always fun to have these discussions and see how different people rank players based on various criteria.
Okay, so now the question is, when it comes to Vince Carter in regards of the GOAT debate, should Vince Carter be a part of the conversation or should he not? Let me know, AI, as well as let me know in the comments.
Absolutely. I definitely think Vince Carter should be part of the conversation when it comes to the GOAT debate. He's certainly one of the most influential and exciting players in NBA history. While he might not be in the top tier of the GOAT conversation, his impact on the game, his longevity, and the way he inspired countless fans and players definitely deserves recognition. So while he might not be in the absolute top tier, he absolutely should be a part of the broader discussion and celebrated for everything he brought to the sport. I'm definitely curious to hear what everyone in the comments thinks as well.
Oh, I'm definitely curious about that as well because I'm shocked that you say he should be. But let's move on to the bonus round. Now, when it comes to the bonus round, I need for you to let me know. Now, this is still across all eras, and you ain't got to worry about the rule change because the bonus area is in regard to the slam dunk contest and the 3-point contest. So tell me your thoughts on that in regards to Vince Carter and those two categories.
Absolutely. When it comes to the slam dunk contest, Vince Carter is basically a legend. His performance in the 2000 dunk contest is often considered one of the greatest of all time. He pushed the boundaries of creativity and athleticism, and his dunks were absolutely iconic. Across all eras, he would definitely remain a standout in the dunk contest realm. As for the 3-point contest, Vince Carter wasn't primarily known for his 3-point shooting. Well, he could definitely hit the long ball. He wasn't really one of the top contenders in that category. Across different eras, he might have been more of a capable shooter rather than a specialist. So overall in the dunk contest, Vince Carter would shine across any era, and in the 3-point contest, he would be more of a solid contributor, but not necessarily a top contender. It's definitely a fun comparison to make.
Well, that's the end of the video. Let's thank AI for chiming in and answering these questions and being as honest as anyone can be, as anyone can expect. Please tell me in the comments your thoughts about this video. Do you agree or disagree with anything that AI said? Also, put those names in the comments. Those NBA player names, whether they retired or still active, or, on whether I should do videos on them next. Put questions in the comments that you feel like I should have asked that I didn't ask. I would love to do a part 2 on Vince Carter. Be sure to like, share, watch more videos, and subscribe to the channel.